Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. In this video, I will be sharing my VR to Aunty K's Tarot original tag called Valentine's Tarot Tag. And I figured since it is Valentine's Day and all, that we should, as we're talking about these date decks, set the mood a little bit. So I've aspired to some mood lighting here, gotten dressed to go out for a date. I have a fine glass of Baco Noir to enjoy and a selection of decks to share with you. So, without further ado, I will share my decks and I'll timestamp below with the prompts. The first prompt is your main squeeze deck that you go to again and again and always return. And I don't think anybody is going to be surprised by what I chose as my main squeeze deck. That is the Naturescapes Tarot by Tina of Queen of Wands. And this deck is a main squeeze for me because since I got this deck, I have used it at least every month. Often more than that. This is a deck that is not seasonally specific. It is not a, connect with it briefly and put it away kind of a deck. This is a return to again and again kind of deck. This is a very obvious pick to me. Look at that beautiful Lover's card. So, main squeeze deck, definitely Naturescapes, based on it being my favorite, and the one that I return to again and again and again. The next prompt is a one night stand deck, that you loved them so much at first, but in the light of morning, you ran. Now, I will say, love them so much is not a phrase that I would use for a one night stand, just saying, but I do have a deck that I am going to be gifting to someone else that I think fits this prompt. And that is the Star Spinner Tarot by Trungles. This is a deck that is definitely the one night stand deck to me. And let me say as well that this is a one night stand that's the kind of one night stand that has a lot of build up and a lot of anticipation involved. And then when it actually happens, just didn't quite work for me. So, this is a deck that I followed the creation of the deck. I was familiar with the artist before the deck came out. And I was really excited when this artist was doing this deck because I knew that it would be queer inclusive. I knew that there would be diversity. And I knew that the art style was an art style that I like. But when the deck finally came to me, we just didn't work well together, I'll say. It is a deck that is really pretty. I like a lot of things about it. But some of the depictions on the different cards just don't land for me. The art doesn't really speak to my associations with the particular card, and so that is not ideal. I do like that there are all these different lovers cards though. So this is a deck that I will be very happy to gift along to someone else that hopefully they will have more of a lasting connection with the deck than I did. So that's my one night stand. The other person deck, a deck that pulls your attentions away from the main squeeze. Now, nothing is going to pull my attention away from Naturescapes completely. They are a commitment. But I will say, as another person deck pulling my attentions away, that I think that the Fifth Spirit Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess reflects that prompt. This is one that I read the guidebook through recently. This is one that I, as a result, have been spending quite a bit of time with. It's also the deck that I point to as the deck that has the type of minors that I like best. And so it does grab my attention, very much so. It's beautiful. I love the representation in this deck. And using this deck makes me very happy. It's not my main squeeze though. Sometimes I like working with the other person in the main squeeze together though, and that seems to work quite well for everyone. Next up is the Friends with Benefits. The Friends with Benefits, you adore this deck, kind of like besties. They make you hot, but they just aren't main squeeze material. But they're fabulous, as Friends with Benefits can be. And for that, I've chosen a deck that has come to me fairly recently, actually. And that is the Fyodor Pavlov Tarot. And we have become very fast friends, myself and this deck. And if I do say so myself, this is quite the sexy deck. I really like this deck a lot. So I definitely adore it as per the prompt. And it's a hot deck. Like, this is a hot deck. It is a joy to shuffle. There's a lot of nudity in this deck. And I really like working with this deck. Now, why would I say that they aren't main squeeze material? Well, this deck, at the end of the day, is just too straightforwardly Smith-Waite based for it to be my main squeeze. I like things a little bit less traditional than that. So, I love it. I will work with it. I can't imagine it ever leaving my collection, but not my main squeeze. And I don't imagine that changing. So, next up is the Dinner Date deck. And the Dinner Date deck is classy with good conversation, really makes you think, and probably a little bit pricey. Now, I did choose an indie deck for this. I would not say that it was pricey in a way that is, unusual for an indie deck. Certainly not, the most expensive in my collection or anything like that. But I would say definitely a classy deck with good conversation that makes me think. And that's the Architect's Tarot by Yusuf Bushiri. I love this deck. I love looking at this deck. I love pondering this deck. I think that this deck feels quite intellectual, quite thoughtful. This deck is somebody that I would go on a dinner date with, no question. And it's a deck with lots to say. When I read with this deck, it gives me good answers. It's clear but complex. Good dinner date conversation. And I mean, classy. Look at that. So, Architect's Tarot is my dinner date deck. Next up is the Club Night deck. A deck you effortlessly dance with. Now, I will say that you're more likely to find me at a punk show than a club. But a deck that I effortlessly dance with, I have to choose one that's very, very, very new to me, and that's the Tarot Souverain. And this is a feminist and non-binary tarot deck. And this one is an effortless dance. It's an effortless shuffle. I've never had cardstock like this. This cardstock, I don't even know how to describe it. Nothing else is like it. Effortless. This deck read so well for me straight out of the box. And I've really been enjoying working with this deck. I also think in terms of a club night deck, if I'm going to have a club night deck, that this deck, which has rainbow aspect to it. Says something about the club that I'm going to be going to, you know, and this is a very kind of DIY feeling, kind of punk sensibility to it. I would say that this is the, you know, queer club night in a warehouse that is kind of taken up just for a night of dancing, and then that's it. And that's the kind of club night dancing that I would be more inclined to go towards. So, Le Tarot Souverain as a club night deck, the deck I effortlessly dance with and have been getting along with swimmingly since we met not so long ago. And the last one is the Forever Single deck. This is a deck that isn't one of your workhorse decks. You pull this out for you or for something special. This deck fills you with self-love, and you like it that way. And that deck, I have a dedicated self-love deck, and I've mentioned this deck before, and that is the Many Queens Tarot. This is a deck that for me is all about self-love, and particularly self-love when it comes to the body. The bodies in this deck are all different shapes and sizes. There's lots of body hair, you know, and this deck celebrates many and multifaceted and queer expressions of femininity in ways that I really love and am attracted to. And so, as a self-loving deck, this is the go-to. And it's not a workhorse deck. It's not one that I work with super constantly, but any kind of self-love reading for me, this is the deck that I think about pulling out first. I love this deck. Many Queens Tarot. So that is my Forever Single self-love deck. And that is my VR to Aunty K's Tarot and Valentine's Tarot tag. I wish you all a wonderful Valentine's, however you celebrate. If you celebrate, may it be a great day for you. And I will see you again soon. Have a good one.